my sons enjoyed sitting and talking to him and asking their dad questions about his youth and his teenage years. I was amazed at the time not only how much enjoyment that he got from this and they got from it, but also we've been together 38 years and I was surprised how much there was that I didn't know about my husband.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I talk with fascinating, talented, and influential guests who reflect on the adventures and challenges of aging and who are living their lives with vibrance and purpose. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, psychotherapist, writer, and zestful ager. And if you like this podcast, you'll love my companion course, Zestful Aging, Simple and Sustainable Habits for Health and Longevity. You'll have access to what I've learned from being a psychotherapist for 30 years and the latest research on what habits really matter and contribute to vibrant aging. Find out more at NicoleChristina.com. Last week, we had the honor of speaking with Kathleen Switzer. She's the first woman to officially run the Boston Marathon, and now she's working on a really interesting global initiative called 261 Fearless. She's trying to bring the power of running to girls and women all over the world. She's really interested in empowerment, and she has a great book called Running and Walking for Women Over 40. I think you're going to love that interview. She is a real pleasure. Next week, we're going to speak with Liz O'Donnell. Liz is the author of a book called Working Daughters, a guide to caring for your aging parents. And you may have seen her work recently in the Atlantic Monthly. She also has a thriving online community. Well, I have my Jack Russell Terrier Sparky beside me, my coffee in my hand, so let's begin. Today, we have the honor of speaking with Jolene Hill, who wants to encourage families to have meaningful conversations about what really matters in life. Her campaign, Life is Short, So Let's Talk, is designed to recognize our intrinsic need to remember and celebrate our life and achievements and talk about our wishes for our future. She's passionate about the importance of creating a record of our life journey for future generations and has created innovative conversation starter cards to kickstart these discussions. Welcome to the show, Jolene.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It's lovely to join you today.
So let me just ask you to tell your story and how you came to create these conversation starter cards.
Yes, well, there's two parts to my story. One is to do with my personal life. So my husband David passed away 10 years ago. He had cancer, and I became his full-time carer for 17 months. And during that time, we have 5 sons with partners, so we're a large family. And one of the things that we enjoyed doing with him was my sons enjoyed sitting and talking to him and asking their dad questions about his youth and his teenage years, and I was amazed at the time not only how much enjoyment that he got from this and they got from it, but also we've been together 38 years, and I was surprised how much there was that I didn't know about my husband.
Like anything stand out in particular?
Most particular was when he was apprenticed at 15 years of age. So he was very young, and he went into a big workplace factory. And those were very important years to him with the older men that mentored him. And I really didn't know anything about that. He had never spoken about it to me. So I can understand that even though our loved ones, we think we know a lot about their life experiences, we often don't. And particularly his sons found it very interesting. He gained a lot, my husband, from passing on a lot of reaffirming his values to his sons and talking about the principles he'd lived by. And, that was extremely important to him. So I took that very much to heart. And the other part of my story is my career background is as a funeral director. So I also know from my professional career, quite often talking to families how much they don't know about their mum, dad, grandma or granddad's early life.
I see. So you noticed that when you were in the funeral business. How did that come up? How did you recognize that?
When, as a funeral director, we sit with families and we talk to them, and we have to have a lot of information to make a register the death of the person who's passed away. And some of the questions are things like, what was your father's first job? And I might have 3 adult children there, and I would get 3 different answers to that question.
Aha.
And, one would say he worked at the railways, and one would go, well, no, he worked at the bakery first. The other one would say, I've never heard that he worked at the bakery. So there'd be a lot of confusion about this early life. I think it's just something probably that we, when we're with our families, we talk about the weather and we talk about what's in the news and what's happening locally. We probably don't sit down and start talking about our experiences from earlier on in our life. So
Do
there's
you
a
think
lot.
that, yes. Do you think there's a cultural part to this, Jolene, that maybe in different cultures it's more common to talk about personal things? I know you are in Australia. Is that correct?
That's right,
And,
and it could
yeah.
be a cultural, as you said, a cultural thing in Australia. Perhaps in your country or European countries, they talk more about their life stories. I can't answer that question because I don't know.
And in Australia, do you find that there's a comfort in general talking about personal issues?
Oh, absolutely. What we find is, and this it can be in different settings, but particularly the first one I think I mentioned was, people like to reaffirm their values that they've lived by when they talk about their past experiences. We use these cards a lot now in an aged care setting to encourage people in aged care to start talking and perhaps get something written down as a legacy. And quite often, we find that people can reconcile past issues that they start to express their thoughts and feelings about. And often it can strengthen their sense of purpose and give them a renewed sense of well-being.
I see. Can you give
So
me an example of somebody who you remember using these cards and something came out of it or developed from using these cards?
absolutely, I go out and give a lot of community talks to a lot of different types of community and seniors groups, and I was giving a talk one day to a cancer support group. So this group had been meeting for about 15 years. Everyone in the group was either recovering or had recovered from cancer. When you're in a group, you often have people who talk a lot and people who talk very little and everybody in between. And I had a lady sitting quite near me who was very quiet. When it came to the part of the talk, I often give out my conversation starter cards, and I invite people to read out the question and then tell their story. And this lady put her hand up for a card, and her card, the question was, tell me 3 things that best describe you. And her first word to describe herself was survivor. Now, this lady had been coming to the group for 15 years, so they all knew each other well. And when she said the word survivor, of course I thought that makes sense. It's a cancer support group. But she spoke for about 15 minutes about the fact that she had been the victim of domestic violence for 40 years.
Oh.
And when she turned 60, she had gathered the strength to separate from her husband. And she talked about how this had affected her life and her children. Now, while she was talking, I looked around the group and literally their mouths were hanging open. They'd
Oh.
known this lady for 15 years and she had never mentioned this. I say the cards are a bit like a talking stick. In a
Yes.
meeting, you're handed the talking stick. Well, in this case, it's one of the conversation starter cards, and you're given permission to speak. And this lady felt she now had permission to talk about that, where she could never have brought it up before. So that's just one small example, but we sometimes get astonishing things happen with people talking about past experiences where they didn't feel they had permission to bring that up before in their family.
Wow, I could see how it would be a real entree into deep discussions, and maybe not all of them so pleasant. Some of them might be rather difficult.
We do, when I talk into community groups, I mention that before we start talking that, whilst we say it's lovely to talk about our life experiences, for some people that might not be as pleasant or as a happy thing as it is for other people. But certainly in a one-on-one setting, talking about some past issues can be a very cathartic experience for some people.
Uh-huh. Can you mention one of the cards said, how would you describe yourself? What are the three things? Could you tell our listeners what some of the other cards might say?
Yes, there's 50 conversation starter cards, and they have questions. Writing something about your life story is not just about the chronological order or the facts and the figures. It's really, that certainly comes into it, but it's really about expressing your thoughts and feelings about the experiences that you've had in your life. So we tried to put questions there that would open up to stories because that's what they are. They're conversation starters. So, questions like, what is the most adventurous thing that you have done in your life? Or
Mm,
what is the time you've laughed so hard that you've cried?
mm,
Or, what is the best and the worst advice you've ever been given?
mm, mm.
All of these things can lead to fascinating stories that people come out with. One that comes to mind is, one of the good ones is, what is the best thing about your life at this time? So, sometimes when people are talking to a family member about that can bring up present issues that they've wanted to talk to them about.
Uh-huh.
So all of the questions can lead to much deeper stories that people uh, can express to their family and friends.
And are you hoping, I know that one of your goals is to help people be clear about their wishes at the end of life. Is that accurate?
That's exactly right. And once again, that's from personal experience with my husband. He and I had never had that conversation. And I can tell you it's a very difficult conversation to have when somebody is ill.
Mm-hmm.
It's much better to have that conversation early on when we're fit and healthy and clear-minded and can talk clearly about what we would like in our future healthcare to our families. So unfortunately, we hadn't done that and it was very difficult towards the end of his life. It can cause a lot of unnecessary dysfunction in family members if this hasn't been discussed clearly by that person beforehand. And
I
I,
think oh, I'm sorry. I think it's fascinating that as a previous funeral director, you had not had that conversation. It just goes to show how how easy it is to avoid this.
it is, absolutely it is. My husband had what's called a slang term, white coat fever, in that he was diagnosed with cancer at 60 years of age, but it was the first time he had ever been to a doctor in his life. And so he had a strong resistance to anything to do with health, discussions about health or that type of thing. So that's how that came about. But it's very interesting statistics in that if you ask people, do they think that's a good idea to talk ahead of time about what they would want in their healthcare as they age and near the end of their life, of course, 95% of people say yes.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, oh, wonderful. Have you done that? No, 14% have done that. So huge difference there in what people think is a good idea but actually doing it. And that's because it's a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah, it's the extreme. People will talk about awkward. It's the extreme in awkwardness.
It is. And in actual fact, that's why I designed the story cards. Before I designed there's another set of conversation cards to encourage people to have that other conversation about what they want in their future. And I know from talking to people that work in this area, social workers and counsellors, that when people talk about their life story, and let's face it, we all like talking about ourselves, once they are experienced that, it's a natural segue into talking about what we want in our future. So the two of them fit together perfectly. So that was my goal, was to encourage people to reflect on their life and get some of this written down as a legacy, but also have that natural flow of conversation to talk about what they want in their future as well with their family and friends.
Hi, Zestful Agers. I'll be attending the International Federation of Aging's 15th Global Conference on Aging in November of 2020. And if you're interested in improving your understanding of age-friendly environments, debating solutions to address inequalities, confronting the reality of ageism, and delving into what it means to enable the functional ability of an older person, head over to ifa2020.org to find out more. There's an early bird special on until the end of the year, so take advantage and join me in Niagara Falls. I'll see you there. So now the cards are complete. I know that there are health facilities that are using them in their programming. How do you spend your days these days?
I go out and I give a lot of community talks, but I have developed a new program, a biography program, and it's designed at training aged care staff and volunteers into how to sit down over a period of sessions and have conversations with their clients in aged care to get a life story written down. So that's my new mission at the moment, is to get out there into the aged care area and encourage. It's a time-consuming thing for staff at aged care to do. And more often than not here in Australia, they would look towards their volunteers that come into aged care to spend time as buddies with people in the aged care facility. So I've designed a program that's easy for them to follow on how best to go about conducting those conversations and getting a life story written down. My other project at the moment is we have done two prototypes. We've gone out to our local primary schools and we've arranged to have a morning where they invite seniors from the community to come into the school, and they use their upper grades in primary, which here would be 10 and 11-year-olds, and they get together at morning tea time for around about an hour to an hour and a half. And we have fun. We set up tables. We seat some of the seniors at a table together with some of the children. and we give out some of these cards, and they take turns, intergenerational
Oh,
get together. They take turns asking each other questions. Now, when we did the first one, we knew the seniors would enjoy this. We weren't so sure about the children, but the children love it. It is
oh
an
my
absolute
goodness.
hit with
It's
both generations.
it sounds like it really challenges some ageist notions that the children might have.
Well, absolutely, and we have to remember that there are, quite a lot of children now that don't have uh, seniors or grandparents or older aunts and uncles in their lives. So they're not exposed to having that older generation around them to talk about the
Mhm.
past. And so they find it so interesting. And also, they're being given lovely attention by these seniors who are asking them questions about their lives. And they just love it. And at the end of it usually runs for about an hour and a half, we take a microphone around to each table. We ask, two of the children to stand up and tell us one or two things that they've learned from the seniors at their table. And we get some really wonderful stories that the children tell. But one of my favourites is one day a little boy stood up and he said, "Well, I learnt that when Charlie was my age, it was much harder to steal cigarettes from your parents." Oh, sorry, it was much easier. Sorry, it
How
was much
much easier.
easier to steal, which I don't think was what the teachers wanted them to really learn that day. But nevertheless, Charlie had told them that story. But
Oh my goodness.
just the seniors talking about their childhood where they had no television and no computers and they're in country areas in Australia, so they rode a horse to school and
Oh my
you,
goodness.
the children find this absolutely fascinating.
Oh.
They love the stories. Um,
Oh, so you're really enriching the children's views and life and also the elders.
Oh yes, absolutely, and it's an it's a win-win for both generations. The seniors love, once again, that not all of them have young children in their lives. They might not live near their grandchildren. They love the contact with the children and vice versa. So I'm going to develop that program more through our we call them parents and citizens associations that belong at each school. Um,
Mhm.
so we go through them and they organise the morning and put on some morning tea and which we have at the end of the session. So it was an idea that I had and I've only just started, but that's going to keep me very busy. I've named it talking about my generation.
Ah, the Who from the Who song.
That's right, exactly. So
Oh, love that.
we'll have a website operating soon, and that's yes, that's certainly keeping me busy. But I also have speakers. I'm not the only one who goes out to community talks. I have speakers all over Australia and New Zealand. Um, they are mostly funeral celebrants. So they're people. You would call them funeral celebrants in your country, I believe. Do you? So
I
that
don't think so. Let me
no.
let me try to think what that would be called. Tell me a little bit more.
So if people are having a funeral service, but it's not going to be in a church, it's going to be at a different location, they would have a celebrant conduct that. We have marriage celebrants that conduct
Oh,
marriages.
I see.
Then we have funeral celebrants that would conduct a funeral service or a memorial service rather than
Mhm.
somebody from the clergy.
I think we would call that an official.
Just an official, okay?
Yeah, like something like a some kind of memorial service official. I'm just making that up, but I'm not familiar with the term that you used. So it's just somebody. It sounds like to lend some officiality to a service that might be in the woods or on the beach or
That's right.
something like that. Okay.
exactly. So these they're very good at public speaking, and most of them are very community minded, at
Mm-hmm.
volunteering at different services in their community. So I've gathered a lot of them together right around Australia and New Zealand, and they do exactly what I'm doing. They go out and give talks to community groups and carer groups and talk about exactly what we're talking about today, the importance of families having these really meaningful conversations.
I see. What are the challenges to your work right now, Jolene? What are the things that are more difficult for you?
Talking to people about writing your life story is something that everybody enjoys and can see the importance of, and are happy, to buy the cards and start that process. The challenge is the other conversation. That's the difficulty that we face in is sometimes even talking to groups about that. Often their facilitators will say, oh, look, we don't want you to talk about that conversation, or people having to talk to their families about what they want as they're aging and near the end of their life. So there's certainly still a taboo around that
Mm-hmm.
conversation
Mm-hmm.
in the community, and people are reluctant to ask you along to their group because they fear that it might be a bit of a downer, that
Mm-hmm.
we might upset people by, talking about death and dying. Really, I mean, it is part of life, but it's still very much a subject that people like to avoid.
I
Um,
see. They would rather maybe talk about scrapbooking or something in the news or a little bit less sensitive.
yes, yes, and I have people say to me, "Well, look, I don't want to talk about that. If I'm ill and when I die, I won't be around to worry about it." And I say, well, that's in some ways it's a little bit selfish because
Mm-hmm.
talking to your family about what you want towards the end of your life and further, what you want for your funeral and memorialization is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gift to them, giving them some peace of mind that if you're no longer able to make decisions for yourself, and they are required to do that on your behalf, they know that they're doing what you would want.
Mm-hmm.
They're not guessing. And as I mentioned before, that can sometimes cause a lot of tension in a family because not
Mm-hmm.
everybody will agree on what should be done. Um,
Right, right.
so that's probably our challenge,
Mm-hmm.
is to get people to take this seriously and have that conversation. And people, seniors will say to me, we've tried to do this with our adult children, and they say, oh no, mum and dad, we don't want to talk about that. You're going to be here for
Oh,
such a long time.
I
Yes, we'll
see.
leave it. Or young people say to me, I'd love to ask mum and dad, but I just don't know how to bring the subject up. I don't want to upset them or hurt their feelings. So I don't know
I
how to
see.
start the conversation.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jolene, have you heard of the Coffin Club in New Zealand?
I have, indeed, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they're very well known, aren't they?
They are. I actually did an interview with Katie many, many months ago, and I hope my listeners, if they didn't get to hear that interview, the Coffin Club has a beautiful, professionally done video, music video.
Oh, yes, they've come a long way since the gem of an idea first blossomed.
Uh
Um,
huh.
they've certainly advanced that, and they're doing a wonderful job, I think. The more that we have that out there, the more it becomes part of the general conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting when we go out to talk to groups, once we break through that first few minutes of what we're going to talk about, um, people will open up. It's just like they're frightened to make that initial start in the conversation, but
Uh huh.
once they get comfortable, they've got plenty they want to tell you about what they want in their future and what they do and don't want with their healthcare.
So you have to just break through, and then it's easier after that initial push.
Most of the time, yes, yes. I think because, as we age, we all have these thoughts about what we would want in our healthcare. We see things on the news, we have friends, we hear stories, and we even if we don't realise it, we have decided what we would like in our future. The problem is we don't express it to anybody else. We keep it to ourselves.
Right, right. Wow, it sounds like you're doing such good work. Do you remember when you first had the idea that, hey, I can put these on cards and get these published? Do you remember when that inspiration hit you?
I do actually. I had the idea that I wanted to. I initially built a website called yourlifeassist.com.au, which is a lot of information for carers. Because I'd been a carer and I found it difficult to find a lot of information that I needed about support that I could get, I built a website, and it took me a year. And as I was building it, in the back of my mind, I was all the time thinking about how I could encourage people to have these conversations. And I was just out at a dinner with friends, and they suggested, that we have some board games to play, and they were giving people a choice which one. And I noticed one of them was a set of conversation starter cards, which were really conversation starter cards for people who hadn't met before, and they were just, funny cards to use at a dinner party. And I thought, what a great idea. What a great idea. What if I designed cards to get people to have these other conversations about their life story and about their healthcare? Would people like that idea? And what we find is that everybody's familiar with cards. They're a tactile thing for us to use. They're far less confronting than simply just being asked a question by somebody with a pen and paper in their hand.
Yes, yes. There's a
Yes,
friendliness about it.
absolutely. And I just thought, well, maybe cards would encourage people to have this conversation. And the good thing about cards is, I have a lot of young people say to me, they see what we're doing, they go, well, this is wonderful. Are you going to design an app for this?
Oh my goodness.
And I go, no. I think that you're missing the point of the cards. If they require an active listener, face to face, somebody to engage with. This is not something that we can do with an
Not for Siri.
app. No.
That's
So
very funny. It's not about gathering data. It's about
no,
having a conversation.
that's exactly right. Yes, yes.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's wonderful. So, a lot of your life experience, professional and personal, really led you to kind of be in this mind space of getting this inspiration that this would have helped me perhaps, and I know that it would have helped some of the people when I was a practicing funeral director. It sounds like it kind of all came together.
that's exactly right. And I'm now at retiring age, and I'm not a person that can go very long without some sort of project. And this is my retirement career now. I'm a people person. I love being out in the community, and if I can be out in the community and do encourage, just a few people to get their life story written down. It doesn't have to be War and Peace. They can
Ah!
use our cards and they can make it just a lovely little short story with photos, but get something there for future generations. And if I can encourage people to have that conversation about their future healthcare, I'm one very happy lady.
Aha, that's lovely. And it makes me think that on your, when you're answering the question, what are three things about me? One of them would be connecting with others and helping them have more meaningful conversations and enriching the world somehow.
Uh, that's right. It's a rather large project, but I really started sitting at home with my laptop all by myself, and I now have 37 speakers, and the cards are conversation starter cards are being sold in your country and Canada, the UK and New Zealand and here. So from very small beginnings, and it's only been 2 years, it's grown very rapidly. So
there's
I
a
think that's
need.
partly a timing thing. People are becoming more aware of having to talk about their future health care. And I've just happened to get it out into the right channels. Oh, look, I'll tell you a very short story. I often start working very early in the morning, and my mail came very early one morning, and there was a very official letter, and it was an invitation for me to have afternoon tea with the governor, our Governor General here in Queensland. And I had to laugh to myself. I thought, 2 years down the track, who would think that because of the work I'm doing, I would receive an invitation to Government House? So it's interesting how you think you just have a small idea, but who's going to listen to you? It's interesting sometimes where that small idea can take you.
I have had that experience myself. So that is wonderful. So where can people find these cards? Can you give some websites and some connect details so people can start using these cards for themselves?
Yes, certainly. They can purchase the cards, and they come with a companion booklet that they can record their stories and that in, and they can purchase them from the website, which is called yourlifetalks.com.
Okay. Yourlifetalks.com. And can they find out more about you on this website?
Yes, certainly. Yes, certainly.
That's beautiful. Any other last words you'd like to share, Jolene, before we end?
Certainly, if I've encouraged anybody out there, and I know they'll be thinking, yes, that's something that I should do. I should start writing down my life story. I can empathise. I know it's a difficult thing to do, but the fun thing to do is to get the cards and use them with your family, and you will be very surprised how much fun it is for a start. And secondly, how surprised they will be when you start answering some of those questions on the cards with things that they've never heard you talk about before.
Never heard.
No.
They've never heard. Now, somebody I spoke with who does similar kinds of work suggested that, at least for the U.S., this would be a fun thing to bring to Thanksgiving. Now, I know that that's not a holiday that you celebrate, but that's a time when often families are gathered and
Yes.
maybe a great time to bring these cards out and start the process.
Absolutely, and it's not just for the seniors in the family to answer the questions; it's for everybody. We've had things like family reunions, similar to Thanksgiving, family reunions, cousins get-togethers where they haven't seen each other for 20 years or whatever, and they've taken the cards along just to get the conversation going about what have you been doing in the last 20 years. And they've reported back to us it's been an immense amount of fun using them in the family group. So certainly Thanksgiving would be the ideal time to have them out.
Oh, I love that idea, and it just sounds so friendly and connecting, and I just love the spirit of it. It just, I mean, I'm a psychotherapist, of course, so that's going to appeal to me, but there's something about it that really, it really gets at our humanity.
Yes. And I just noticed in the media a lot in Australia at the moment, the word conversation is being used so much. It's websites are coming up, TV programs, the conversation. I think it's one of those things, maybe we're getting back to the idea that what is important in our lives is family and community. It's something maybe that we've veered away from. There's been a lot of, the me society, but we're all getting back to starting to see that what's important in our life is our family and our community. So, and that all involves conversations.
Yeah, it occurs to me. It's the opposite of having conversations on Facebook. It really is a very different experience than having how many ever so-called friends
Oh,
who
yes.
you may not even recognize if you saw them in your supermarket. But something very different than, online friends, to actually asking people in your life these really important conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, these conversations. That's wonderful. Jolene, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for figuring out the time change with me. I think the audience is going to love hearing about these cards, and I will put your website in the notes so that they can find you.
Lovely. I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you, Nicole.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com. In this phase of our lives, we're more aware that our time is precious, and we certainly don't want to waste it taking care of stuff that we no longer need, left over from a life that we are no longer living. We know we would feel better with less clutter and more open space, but we don't know how to get there. If this sounds familiar, I'd love you to check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. This course is different than others you may have tried because we give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and tools to help you face the overwhelm and feelings that come up when you're going through your clutter. It's practical and realistic, and the lessons are short and punchy and very manageable, but it has the power to change your life. We all deserve to live in a peaceful home without the chaos of too much stuff. Find out more at NicoleChristina.com. Next week, we're going to speak with Liz O'Donnell. Liz is the author of a book called Working Daughters, a guide to caring for your aging parents. And you may have seen her work recently in the Atlantic Monthly. She also has a thriving online community. Liz talks about how difficult it is to hold down a job while raising your family and caring for an elderly parent or relative. And I think that will resonate with most of us. She's gotten a lot of accolades for her work. See you then.